The news of conflict in Sudan has been very well publicised recently, with the country's crisis being reported all over the world. The thing is though, Sudan, a country in northeast Africa, has been facing a major crisis for decades, with the country being challenged by civil wars, political instability, economic turmoil and human rights abuses for years. Whilst what's going on in Sudan right now is being very well spoken about, let's talk about the events leading up to the current crisis and establish the reasons why Sudan is in such trouble today. First, let's go over the current crisis. Now, to summarise things very quickly, a serious power struggle has broken out in Sudan, escalating into severe violence, with some analysts even believing that the country is headed for civil war. Whilst this is bad enough, another major concern is how far-reaching the consequences of this conflict could become, with people fleeing into neighbouring countries such as Chad who have their own issues in terms of political stability. But to make matters even worse, there are even concerns about the potential for the Russian Wagner group to get involved in the conflict, adding to existing global tensions around Russia. But let's go back in time, back to where it all began. Let's have a look at the roots of the Sudan crisis. For this, we must explore the historical factors leading up to the current Sudan crisis. Arguably, we could go back as far as the history of colonialism, ethnic and religious divides, and power struggles within the country, which have all contributed to the current crisis. The thing is though, Sudan has been a politically unstable nation for quite some time, with numerous coups and changes in the government occurring in recent decades. Economic issues in the country tied with human rights violations will have left many feeling angry and left behind. And as of current, two groups are fighting: the forces of a Sudanese general and the country's own army. The two forces have very different ideologies and different views on how things should be carried out. So now that we understand how deep the roots of the Sudan crisis go, let's have a look at the specific events which led up to things getting this bad. Over recent years, we've seen protests due to the government's decision to cut subsidies on fuel and bread, and to make matters even worse, many protests are met by the use of ammunition and tear gas, often leading to further unrest. Ultimately, the years leading up to 2019 created such contempt within the population that the dictatorial leader of the time was ousted, and much of the violence today can still draw its roots back to this period, as tensions in the country are still very high. This is arguably why the division in ideologies has arisen, leading to violence all over the country. There are many different mindsets on how the country should be run, and really what we're seeing here is a major power struggle, with each side blaming each other for the violence. Regardless though, what we are seeing in Sudan is yet another brutal conflict, which will have an effect not just on the forces in the country, but also on the civilian population. And whilst in recent days a UN-brokered ceasefire had been agreed, there have been reports of gunfire even within this period, showing that not much was achieved by the call for peace. Neighbours of the country such as Egypt and South Sudan have offered immediate talks to the two sides, but with so much to play for, any talks must be very serious. So there you have it. An ongoing issue was the topic for this video. I don't normally talk about things that are currently going on, but maybe this will be a little bit of a better video which will be more interesting for you guys than talking about some company's long and complicated past. If you did enjoy it, let me know by liking it and subscribing, but that's it for now, so thank you so much for joining us in this one.